How good you are at this skill will determine your success in business beyond everything else. This is a universal truth that is true for every single business in existence. It is what most businesses get wrong and few businesses get right that allow them to win big. It also has to do with the collapse of civilization, but more on that later. So this is what is called synergy, not entropy. So what I mean by that is synergy is working together, entropy is confusion and chaos. And so when you are in a business, you have a business is just a group of people. That's really what it is. And at the end of the day, business is good synergy. You can think of these people like bricks. And so when you have good synergy between people, it is the right bricks in the right place. You will have a house that is functional and standard. But as soon as those bricks want to go off and do their own thing, it just becomes a pile of bricks, which is useless, and not many people would pay very much money for a pile of bricks outside of the money that the bricks is actually worth. However, when you assemble these bricks into something like a house, you are going to value the bricks much more. It's also going to be much more functional than a pile of bricks will be. So sometimes if your organization can feel a little disorganized, and that will maybe why. And there's a whole bunch of different things that can happen in entropy, and which is why it's actually one of the most important things to have in your business if you want to scale it. Actually, even if you don't want to scale it, even if you just want to have a more successful business, you need to have less entropy in your business and more synergy between people. Synergy can express itself in a lot of different ways, but we'll talk about, so you have the right people in the right places, so that's the pile of bricks, and more importantly, broadly speaking, like society is like this as well. And you have people that no longer want to be part of a functioning society, which was, effectively the US was a good house, and people are now deciding, I would like to be this other person, this other type of brick in another area that has nothing to do with the actual structure. The structure will just fall apart. It's just fact. It's not like a feeling of like, oh, you can get offended at it, but like that's just what's going to happen. So that's fine, but just know if like that's what's coming, then do the math and like be prepared accordingly. So the same thing with your business. If you have a bunch of people who want to go off and do their own thing and are not synergistic, especially as an example, I'm going to use marketing as an example here because 80% of your businesses just really should be focused on marketing and sales. That's really all of a business is. If you don't have really good synergy there, you're going to end up spending a bunch of money on one area and then it's just not converting. So let's talk about what synergy is. When you have a bunch of different silos in business, you want everyone to be communicating with each other. They actually turned out like tuning forks. I didn't mean to do that, but they ended up looking like that anyways. But you want everyone to be communicating with each other. Everyone should be communicating across, and that's fine, but they shouldn't be telling each other what to do. So what I mean by that is they're letting each other know, hey, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm doing, but here's not what you should be doing. And that's why you have like an org chart in place. That's why you have management and stuff like that. So that's just one of the things that I was thinking about. When you have other people in business, everyone should know what everyone else is doing. Everyone should be very aligned on what is happening. They should all be, no pun intended, in tune. And if everyone's in tune, you're going to be able to accomplish the perfect thing. I always thought about marketing like a bowling alley. It's a bowling alley example here, where if you bowl right down the middle of a bowling lane, you're going to end up with a strike. All the pins are going to go down and you're going to win. So everything in your advertising should be congruent. And like if you go look at your customer journey, it's they click on an ad, they have some sort of call with you or communication, they come in, whatever that may be, they decide whether or not they want to purchase, so they purchase the thing, they come in and get the thing, whether it's brick and mortar, service-based business, whatever it may be, or if it's a product that's shipped to you. So and ideally, what they click on is what they should get. And so when you have a non-synergy there's entropy, there's chaos. If you get something that's broken, you're like, hey, this is not what was advertised. I would like a refund, or whatever may happen there. So that's what happens when you have non-synergy within your marketing. When you have non-synergy within your people, your marketing person is going to say, I'm going to advertise this other thing. As an example, if you are advertising rubber duckies and you end up getting shipped a fire extinguisher, you're going to have a lot of very confused people. Why did you ship me a fire extinguisher? I ordered rubber duckies. So that's just an example. Let's talk about synergy in marketing though, and like what that looks like for you, because a lot of people that when they get their funnel misaligned, they'll end up spending money and they're like, why is this thing not converting? And here's a good example of that. So oftentimes I was considering what platform do I want to use for one of the companies that I was working with recently. And we didn't really know what platform was best. I almost thought it was Meta, and we ended up going with Google because Google just had the right audience there. And so I almost just selected the wrong platform for advertising everything on. Not necessarily the wrong one, just not the right one for this case. And so I would have, sure, what if my landing page, my sales call sequence, my scripts, and my messaging on all of my marketing material was aligned, but if I was sending traffic from like completely the wrong area, I could have just not gotten any customers, spent tens of thousands of dollars on this campaign, and not gotten anything from it. Whereas now that I shifted it, my focus and attention, I am bowling that strike. I'm looking at the right platform, which will send the right traffic to my landing page, which will have the right sales call sequence, and as an example of that, when you have synergy between your marketing, you can click on this thing, you can expect that the end goal, the actual closing process is going to be like what they clicked on, or at least similar. Hey, you are promised this outcome or this offer, you will get this offer. And everything along the way should speak to that. Does your landing page speak to the offer that this person is going to or has already bought? Does your sales call sequence speak to the offer that they're going to buy? Is the scripting that you have for the sales call, does that have to do? And then also the way that people buy. As an example, if you are trying to sell something that let's just say really inconvenient to buy. Let's say that it's milk, but you have to drive 100 miles away and it's this weird special milk, but they don't ship to you and that's it. That's an example of like, even if your milk is really the best thing in the world and no one just wants to travel 100 miles to go get your milk, you're probably just not going to be able to have a lot of success with your advertising per se, because you're selling something that is not synergistic with what people want. And as an example, you are selling something that ideally should have synergy within the market, because the market is what decides what people are or are not going to buy. I'm actually going to do a video on that one, specifically the market and what moving the market forward. So if you're interested, I'll put that on screen now. But so this really should be what exactly it should look like for you when you have synergy in your marketing. And let me tell you, getting this right actually saved me probably about 50% on marketing costs. So I went from spending 10% of revenue to like 5% of revenue on just getting my messaging on marketing synergistic, which means 5% of a couple $1 million is hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that went into the actual business's profits instead of just being wasted on a platform. And so that's really what's at stake when you don't get your synergy right. Now, how do you find out what good synergy is? So part of it is making sure that what they click on is what they get. The other part of it is making sure that the way people buy is in alignment with the way that you are selling it. So as an example, milk is so convenient, I can pull out my phone and buy it and it can be here within like 25 minutes. I can get milk to my house delivered, and that is the way that I buy. I don't have to leave anymore, which is great. So the same thing, like that is synergy with what the market wants. The market wants something super easy to get and very quick and at a decent price, right? So that's an example of the store that is selling that thing is really synergistic with what the market wants. It is not chaotic, it's not confusing. I can hop on the app, I can click on it, and it goes directly into my cart, gets charged to my card, and then it shows up at my house. Whereas, let's say I had to go to someplace to drive 100 miles to go get milk, that's not in alignment, that's not in synergy with what the market wants. And then the way that their employees communicate. Think about that. How many people have to communicate in order to get that milk here? Well, first off, I had to, an iPhone had to be made. So the actual physical device had to be made. And then the operating system had to be made. So both of those things had to make. Then the internet had to exist. And then the store had to exist. And then the store had to have a way to be able to pick up the signals that I'm sending from my phone, store my information, charge my card. I had to have a credit card. Credit cards had to have existed. So these are synergies across the entire marketplace that people are already using. This is how people stand metaphorically on the shoulders of giants to build bigger and bigger businesses. And so the same thing, the same synergies that are used across the market, these are things you can be using in your business and should be using in your business to create a more effective unit of business. The more effective, the more easy that I can purchase something from you, the more synergistic all of your marketing and fulfillment is, the more money that you're going to be able to make, because you're going to be able to do something more efficiently at scale than anyone else, which means you can compete on price, you can compete on volume if you want, you can compete on quality. These are all different things you can compete on if you just get the synergy right, and you go from chaos and pandemonium, a pile of bricks, to organizing those pile of bricks in a very specific and set way. And you ask anyone who actually has had experience building houses before, or any sort of like brick structure, they'll tell you how important it is to get a brick structure correct. Like one brick off can literally set the entire house. I mean this literally. There's pictures of it. If you have one brick off, like you can have a chimney. I can't remember what it's called. It's like if you mislay a brick, the entire house is off, and then it just looks weird. So that's an example of how you should have synergy in your business, in your messaging, and across your people. I like to have communication as frequently as possible, as open as possible, but not over communicating, because obviously there's too much communication as well, where people, if they have too much noise and they can't prioritize it, so you have to help them prioritize their communication and organization. And if you like this video, this is how I took one business to $10 million on its first try.